Welcome back to the Kilo Cave finally, and to a new Vaughn weightlifting cycle. Very excited to put this cycle out. I'm going to talk a little bit more about some specifics that you'll be seeing in starting like in week 3, week 4, moving on throughout the rest of the cycle. But as indicated previously, this is going to be 12 weeks long. So for those of you that have been with us before, basically all you've seen are 14-week cycles, and that was nothing other than a coincidence with the dates that we had put out there. But of course, use this for whatever competition or whatever test date that you might need or want it for. Okay. If you've been on the program before, this week number 1 that's coming up that we're about to dig into right now is going to look a little bit different than the setup that you're used to, especially through basically the entire cycle last time, but only for a couple weeks. If you've done the refresher week before on this on the Vaughn weightlifting site, it's basically just a slightly adjusted version of that, but it's also a very good intro week leading into what we're going to be doing from week 3 to week 12. So this refresher week type, this intro week that you're going to be going through, we'll do it for a second week next week with some slight adjustments. But so hang in there with me, and we'll get back into some other stuff. If this is your first time with us, welcome to the program. We're excited that you're interested in trying it out. Confident that you'll be able to learn a few things and to gain some what we really focus on, obviously, that you see is we really focus on mobility, we're really focused on position, and we're confident that you'll come out of it a better, stronger lifter, stronger athlete overall. But I want you new folks out there to keep in mind that these first 2 weeks definitely look a little bit different than what it normally does. Again, we're going to use these first 2 weeks to give you some progressions for the Olympic lifts and keep the weights a little bit light, and to set you up for the heavy hard push that we're going to be doing throughout the rest of the cycle. So keep that in mind, guys, and hang in there. So like I said, very light percentages on most of the exercises. You're going to see a range there of 50 to 70% in this first week is going to be a very common range that you're going to see on a lot of the exercises, even some of them hanging around 50% the whole time. I know that that's really light, but take that opportunity to practice and try to perfect those movements as much as you can. There are some just straight by feel opportunities, like on some of the squats, and feel free to go up as heavy as feels good. There's no range there saying, hey, don't go over this. So if it ever says by feel and there's no other instruction other than that, there's no percentages indicated, then work up heavy. Have fun with it. Take that opportunity to kind of get your fix, so to speak. All right. The warm-up section of the program is basically what we've been doing. So you're not going to really see anything different. We might be adjusting those just slightly, just to be picky and try to perfect as much as possible. But really, the biggest reason why we would change any of that, including the recovery portion of the program, is just to give you guys that have been on the program something a little bit different. So just to change it up a little bit. But really, we're confident that what we're doing there is good, and you guys are getting a lot out of it. I know that I get a lot out of it. I cycle through those warm-up sequences just like you guys do basically we're doing 3 different ones. So on first day of training, I do day 1, second day, day 2, third day, day 3. If I do a 4th day during the week, then I do the first one again. Or if I do 2 workouts in a week, then I do 1, 2, and the next time I work out, I'll do the 3rd one. So I continually cycle through those just like I'm writing in for you guys. And again, really the biggest reason why I would change it is just to get you guys something different. And usually that's just not a good enough reason. And hopefully you guys are feeling benefit from that. I'm confident that you would be, and understand where we're coming from there. The same kind of thing on the recovery section. we're always trying to learn new things and adjust things here and there, and give you guys the best stuff that we possibly can. So I can definitely see us changing up or adding in different exercises and movements on the recovery section, but for the most part we're looking consistent with what we have done before. Okay, auxiliary section for all the progression type setup that we're going to be doing over the next couple weeks. The auxiliary section won't be in there just as it was a new thing that we added the last cycle. We'll put that back in starting first day on week 3. But with you're doing quite a few different exercises here on the progression type setup that we'll be doing the first 2 weeks. So we're going to keep it out of there. I want you to remember that auxiliary it comes after recovery. So even though recovery is always written last, yes, do that last if you have time, but priority wise, when we start putting auxiliary back in there, yes, I want you to get it in, and you're going to get a lot out of it if you're able to get it in, but we're always talking about time management and prioritizing. The warm-up section is very important in this program. The recovery section is equally as important in this program. Of course, the work portion, you need to get that in. If you're trying to build and progress through these weeks and really get in what you need to be truly on the program, but sometimes there's extra credit in there, and starting in week 3 there's always going to be auxiliary in there. So just want you to understand the priority is, if you're in a time crunch, recovery is most important, auxiliary is after that, and then any extra credit is after that. So those are always kind of written in reverse order, but you're going to typically know how much time you have. So that's how you would kind of subtract from the program if you had a little bit less time, and that's on any given day. So I have a coaching consistency point written up at the top of the program. Read through that and think about that real quick. It's basically saying that through all the exercises that we're progressing through, you're doing a lot of stuff from the hang, and just make sure that you're picking it up correctly first. I see people just kind of with a completely rounded back Romanian deadlift, kind of picking up the weight however they want to, and then they're focusing in and getting in position. Use that opportunity to lock in and basically another rep of snatch deadlift or clean deadlift, whatever the exercise is that you're using. But also in the progressions on the snatch and clean days, I've written in snatch deadlift and clean deadlift or variations of that as the first exercise as we start to go from the floor. So that's just to give you that reminder to key you in. You're focusing on perfect movement there, and I want you to continue that as you go to different exercises and start to actually snatch and clean from those hang positions. All right. Week 3, starting on week 3, we'll be getting into something that looks completely different, taking that all the way into that last week. And basically what it's going to be is pretty majorly modified version of the TENS program. The TENS program, for those of you that aren't aware of it, is basically also been called the Kendrick Ferris program, or the LSUS template. So basically you focus on TENS and a lot of different exercises for a couple weeks. You transition down into 5s, and then if you stick with it long enough, you transition down into 3s as you get into more of a competition phase. So that's kind of the base of where the idea of the program comes from. But if you've ever seen that template before and you compared it to what we're going to be doing, you might not really completely recognize it. The basic concept that we're following are 10, 5, and 3, and then other than that, there's quite a few changes. But I'm very excited about it because it's a program that I've done a lot through my career, and it's a program that I've given to a number of athletes through my career, and there's always something to get out of it. Even at this point, whenever I go through a phase like this, even if I go just through the TENS portion of the phase, I always get a lot out of it. And obviously, for me, it's not about using it to eventually build up to PRs, though that's what used to happen. but now it's about, you know, getting me back in shape, or kind of stimulating my my legs and my body to build back up to some heavy weights again. So very excited for you guys to get to that, and of course we'll talk about that much more once we get to those weeks. But just want to give you a heads up of what's coming up. I think that's going to be it for the week, guys. Again, you know, keep in mind that you'll be doing mostly the same next week on week 2, and I'll be back to talk to you more about that. And then week 3, that's where you're really going to see those big changes. Basically, to summarize, the auxiliary section will be coming back in, and you're going to be doing a lot of reps. So that'll be it, guys, and have fun. We'll see you next week for week 2 of 12.